All right, hey everybody, welcome to another video on Adobe XD. Today we're just going to be really quickly talking about what you're greeted with when you open a project on Adobe XD and the various tools that are available to you. So let's jump right in. I am going to open up my recently saved document called Getting Started. And it can, if you have a recently saved file, it'll also show up in your files. And this is a Web 1920 project. So the resolution is 1920 by 1080. So I'm going to click this and we're going to get started. Okay, so this is kind of what you're greeted when you when you open up an Adobe XD project. I'm going to declick this libraries section here so I can get a better look. You have all your tools available to you on the left side. You have your options up at the top, and then on the right side you have your object specific actions that you can take for different things. So I'm just going to move my face so you can see that right side pane there. And then you have your document title that's saved to the cloud right there. Okay, so let's start off with navigation and zooming. So the first thing that you're going to want to learn is how to move around in this software. So if you're using a laptop and a trackpad, you're going to take two fingers and place it on that, and then you can go back and forth and up and down, and then use the pinch functions on your trackpad with your fingers to zoom in and out. And then if you're on keyboard and mouse like I am, you are going to use the middle mouse button. That's the scroll wheel. So you're going to press down on the scroll wheel and you can move around that way. And then to zoom in and out, you're going to hold down Control on your keyboard, or if you're on a Mac, you hold down Command. And then so holding that down, you're going to scroll, and then that'll allow you to zoom in and out. And then if you want to do more specific zoom functionality, you can go to this right side here and select a percentage for the zoom. And then there's also the view options menu up here where you can learn to zoom in and out using Control or Command plus or minus. And then you can also zoom to do a different zoom for different things here specifically. And then the last way to kind of navigate here is using the zoom tool here. So if you press Z on your keyboard or press, if you click here, you can highlight a certain portion of the screen that you want to see specifically, and it'll go straight there. So I'm going to highlight this artboard, this Web 1920-1 artboard. And then when I let go of my mouse, it pops into view like that. So that's really helpful. And that's kind of the navigation. So great. So now let's talk a little bit about the tools. The first tool that you have at your disposal is the select function, or V on your keyboard. So clicking on that, that's going to allow you to interact with anything on your Adobe XD project. So if I highlight in an artboard, an object, a text box, anything like that, it's going to be selected and activated by using the select function. And then you'll see that your object specific actions show up and they become ungrayed. And then the next tool that we're going to look at is the rectangle tool. So that's R on your keyboard. If you click there, it's going to allow you to create a shape. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down Shift on my computer, same with Mac and PC. Holding down Shift, you're going to click and drag, and you're going to notice that it's created a square for me. So the reason why that happened is holding down Shift will retain its dimensions, as you can see in this transform section here. If I don't want it to be a square, I just don't have to, if I don't hold Shift at all, it won't be a square, and I can make it whatever shape I want. And then if I hold Shift again, it'll go back to being a square. So those are your kind of options with that. And then if you hold these little nodes here, you can round out the edges and do various things with that. So you kind of have some things at your disposal for immediate options there. Next tool that we're going to talk about is the ellipse. This is going to allow you to make a ellipse or a circle. Specifically, if by holding down Shift, it's the same story. It'll retain dimensions and create that. If you don't want it to be a circle, you can also not make it a circle by not holding down Shift. Same story. So the next thing that we're going to look at is the polygon function, or Y on your keyboard. We're going to create a shape here. Exact same story. it's the same. It's just creating another shape that you might want to create. And then for this, you also have a few different options for shaping things by holding down these nodes. You can round out edges and make other stylistic choices with whatever shape you kind of want to work with here. So those are your options with that. Next one is line or L on your keyboard. Pretty self-explanatory. It lets you create a line. Easy. And then pen or P on your keyboard will let you draw things. And it's this is kind of something that you're going to have to work with, by yourself and learn how the whole functionality works. It's pretty interesting. You can create some fun things with that. So have fun with that and do as you will with that. And then text or T will let you create a text box. This is really important. So this is, where you're going to be creating your titles and your, all of your subtitles and everything like that. So definitely know how to do this one, text or T on your keyboard. Click on the screen and a text will show up, and then you can type something, I don't know, like project title. Great. And that's that. And then there's the artboard function also. And what that's going to do is allow you to create another one of these things called like Web 1920. It might not be called that on, whatever resolution that you decide to do it on, but it's an artboard. And these are going to allow you to create multiple places where you can design different screens. And eventually we're going to talk about how to go from one artboard to the next with transitions and things like that in future videos. So for my situation, I'm clicking Web 1920 because I need a 1920 by 1080. I strongly recommend that you have a consistent resolution with whatever you're doing. So if you decide to do something for an iPhone, that you retain that, or if you do something for a web page, you retain that. Keep those, resolutions the same so you can have seamless transitions. And this will create a new artboard for you, nice and easy. And I'm just gonna zoom out and so I can see multiple ones, and then it'll also let you create more if you want. Pretty easy. And then the last few things that I wanted to direct your attention to is a library section. This is where a lot of your assets are going to be located. So say if you have a color motif or like a text style that you really want to use, you can store it here. And it will allow you to kind of refer to that if you ever want to, use it again. You can just click on it and refer to any object that you want, and it'll kind of let you do that. Components we're going to talk a little bit more about later. And then the layers section is where a lot of your project organization is going to come in. By clicking on this will show you kind of what where everything exists and what it's called. So I strongly recommend that you rename things. So, for your own organization's sake and for, the person that you're working with, so they know that what they're working with, especially when we start to work with interactivity. So like, for example, I can rename, by right-clicking, I can rename my artboard to like something like title page, or if I want to, if I press V on my keyboard, if I go to the select function, I can select one of these shapes. And if I want to, so the text boxes will be titled that already, but if I want to select a certain box, you can rename that to make it easier to work with. So that's really helpful. And then the plugins function, I'm going to leave that to you to kind of go about. You don't have to use plugins for the Adobe XD project, but if you want to go down that rabbit hole, there's a lot of different things that people have, used to aid them in design and everything through the, Adobe community or whatever. So if you want to go down that rabbit hole, I wish you all the best. So have fun with that. Great. So now we're going to talk finally about the object-specific options. So I'm going to move a few things over using the select function just to give myself some space. And that is that. So now what I do, if I highlight a certain shape, all these object-specific actions can come up. The first pane that we're going to look at is orientation. So this will allow you to move things, like this object's going to the middle, to the bottom of the artboard, left, middle, right. So you can move things around that way. The next thing that's really interesting is the repeat grid function. So if I click on this, it'll allow you to serially create objects. So it'll turn it green, and then you can create multiple things like that if you drag down. If I want like 6 buttons or 6, shapes, right next to each other, I can do that. And then I can also adjust the spacing and everything like that. And then when I click ungroup grid and I click out, I can move them individually if I want. So that's really a helpful function. The next thing is a transform function. This will allow you to set the dimensions of your object really specifically if you have certain dimensions that you want, or you can set the rotation and everything like that. And then we're gonna get to the fixed position when scrolling in just a second here. That's a really important function that we're going to talk about in the last part of this video. And then opacity and the appearance section is the other really important part. The color here, it can be selected with the fill function, so you can kind of select any colors. If you're doing I would highly recommend that you select something that is of a lighter color for to make text kind of pop out in your project. So I'll select something like that color for my fill, and then I typically do something for like I'll do like a black border, something like that. And then I can set the opacity to make it more visible or invisible against the background. And then there are different ways that you can, again, these nodes will kind of help you to shape your object the way you want. And then you can also have like a shadowing effect if you want. And then the other important part of this is object options. So we're going to get more into this when we work with, how to do design and prototyping, but this will allow you to kind of group objects together, hide objects, you can align them, you can send them to the front or the back, in front of things or behind things. So there's a whole slew of things that you can do. Okay. And great. So, and then the story is pretty similar for all the other shapes. The line, you can also select how thick you want the line with the size option. And then for the pen, it's the same story. And then for text, it's slightly different. You just have this option to select the different font that you want. You can select size, and then the type of text box is another thing. By dragging up and down with this type of text box, you can make it bigger or smaller, or you can change the type to make it, to set the orientation. And then you can also insert URLs, and you can set opacity with the appearance and change the color and everything like that. So it's the same story. And now the final part of this video that I'm just going to really quickly go over is scrolling. So you'll find in many websites you're able to scroll, and it's more than just a website page. So if I click on this title page artboard and I drag down like this, you'll see that a dotted line forms. And this is what's going to happen is this going to allow you to have a bigger screen. So you're going to see this area, and then you can scroll down with your computer, your trackpad, or with your scroll wheel. And this is kind of where your viewpoint's going to get cut off. So you have a computer screen, then you can scroll down to see more. And where this function really comes in, the fixed position when scrolling, if you click on this, when you scroll with your functions in your Adobe XD project, if you have this enabled, the object's going to stick with the screen as you're scrolling. But if you don't have it checked, then it'll go out of your field of view when you scroll down. So that's that. And with that, that's kind of a broad overview of all of the tools that you have in Adobe XD. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I look forward to you joining me for the next one. Thanks, everybody. Bye.